Nato.
Okay, you all can go mute on audio.
Okay.
Yes. Good evening, good morning, and good day, because from three places.
Good evening, Michelle.
Good evening. In fact, for this topic, I should start with a disclaimer. You should not think that I have mastered this, okay? But I can certainly see myself how I was versus how I have changed. So I thought that could be useful to share. So let me ask you the question. How many of you don't have any fear? Raise hand.
You expect one of us to say yes, is it, Michelle?
Yeah. Raj could have said that. Yes.
Yes. Yes, I've raised my hand.
Yes, good. See, why I wanted to say that to begin with is that we are not alone. I mean, everybody has this. So that itself should give some comfort, right?
Yes.
And let me ask you one more question. Are you having fear right now? I don't think so, right? Right now, here and now. Are you having fear?
No.
Yeah. If you are having fear, that means you are not here and now. That means you are thinking of something else and somewhere else.
Yeah.
So you can reflect this really. So there is no fear in the present moment. Fear is always in the future. When you are anticipating something,
Right.
So that's an important point to consider. We'll come to that as we go along. So this topic, again, based on how we see interacting in many organizations and in general with many other people as well, we see this is kind of increasing, this fear element, especially because of the world situations and too much of news and the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, very dynamic kind of a world and many things like that. So I thought it could be a good thing to look at this and share across and do a shared learning session. So again, I would like to start with this. Many of the learnings which I'm going to share really comes from some of these great masters. So my samarpane to all of them. This is a dedication to them. To begin with, why should we deal with fear? Some of the points, if you look at fear, significantly impacts our physical and mental health. We know even through medical science that it creates so much toxins in our system. It destroys a lot of cells, even the brain cells and many other cells, imbalances hormones, saps our energy, and it does many harm, right? Physically and mentally. So it's important to then address that. And it distorts our perception of the world. See, when you have fear, how we look at the world actually changes. And moment that fear is gone, we think world is very nice place. So it distorts our perception of the world. And fear drives distorted choices, decisions, and actions. Because of this distorted perceptions, we tend to make wrong choices, decisions, actions. And also fear and desire are two sides of the same coin. Again, it's very interesting to look at this. They come together, when you have some desire, I want this, and this is very important for me. Then fear comes along with that. What if I don't get it? What if I lose it? That kind of fear. And with fear, desire also comes, I may not have enough money later when I retire, so I better earn a lot more money. The fear drives desire. So these two are really like, two sides of the same coin. And that's why they drive significant amount of our decisions, choices, and actions. Fear seems to protect us, but the walls of protection we build around us, like our comfort zones, also become walls of imprisonment. The limiting beliefs, they limit us. And fear holds us back from our full potential, realizing our full potential, including spiritual realization of who we truly are. In fact, in spiritual path also, fear is a very big impediment. So if you look at many of these things, it's very important that we really address this, even for day-to-day life, as well as for anything that we want to achieve, or even go beyond the achievement. So I'll be going through this presentation and talking and sharing. If you have any questions, or if you want to share a comment or something, you please unmute and speak. Otherwise, I'll be keep going. Okay.
Feel fear and desire are not the two sides of the coin, but actually man is torn between desire and fear. And in the forces, combined forces, somewhere he will stop. If it is fear is more, he will, I mean,
okay.
Opposing forces, that makes his position where he is.
Okay, yeah, we can look at that also. There are two opposing forces, shearing or tearing person, but they have a relationship in terms of they come together.
That's also true.
Yeah, yeah.
Vishu,
yeah.
Just a little different thought. Desire is something known, which may create a fear because whether that desire will fulfill or not. Right?
Okay.
So, like my own experience with few of them, right? They say there is a fear, but they don't know why they are fearing.
Okay.
Unknown fear, what they call. And sometimes what I've come across is like they saw a movie, something happened there. So will that also happen to them? More of a psychic or a psychological type of a fear.
Yes.
And another is like, oh, sometime back, 5 years back, 6 years back, something happened to me. This was the scenario that resulted in this fear, or something happened. So I see that something similar is happening now. Will I get into the same problem? Probably maybe an accident or fall or something like that.
Absolutely.
So I see there is unknown fear is more. Probably they are not able to relate why that fear.
Exactly. It's not unknown. It's unknown to the rational mind or our thinking mind. It's in the subconscious state. In fact, fear exists in multiple layers of our being. We'll come to that. In fact, it will be in the Panchakoshas, not just in the Manonmaya Kosha. That's why many times it doesn't appear. I don't know why this is driving so nuts. I mean, I'm conscious that this is nothing, this is silly, but still it drives me so crazy. Because hormones can impact, the body can drive fear.
Right. But typically it is the fear of unknown, right? In majority of the time, the fear is belonging to unknown.
Because it's an imagination. It's about future. Yeah.
Correct.
Whereas this desire is known, is also desire is also about the future, right? I want to get something. I want something to happen. It's also about future. If you again look at in the present moment, we are actually complete. Purna. That's why the Purna Mada, the Upanishad statements. Because we oscillate between the past and future in our mind, we are not in the present moment. We take the past data and project into the future. That's what the mind does. That's why we keep creating it. So you're all jumping my slides. That's good, but
we should.
Yeah.
We should one more point on this direction, right? Like phobia is also one of the kind of
yes.
Right. So it also falls in something like someone looking into the water, they get into that fear.
Yes.
Nothing.
I'm coming to that. The type of fear, types of fears, you can say.
Vishu, I wanted to share something.
Yeah.
Actually, even though I say, I have no fear whatsoever, but you see, there is one fear. Actually, what used to happen is, for the last several decades, is that, whenever I have thought about something, there was an immediacy of that thing happening with me. Okay. So, for example, like you said, desire, if I desired something, it used to almost, surprisingly, I mean, it used to happen too quickly. Now, I became afraid of that, and in fact, I literally wish you prayed to whatever that makes it happen, that I don't want this to happen, because
What if
I
I
am
wish something wrong?
wrong. I felt very afraid that I could very easily harm somebody also, and I am not yet capable of handling that. And that is still there, but fortunately, the desires have also subsided, or rather, so there is the chance of that happening is less. But I just wanted to
Very good.
keep
Wonderful
it in
point.
place
Wonderful
in front
point.
of me.
It's a evolution actually. In fact, it's a safety net in the nature that we start getting capability of manifesting desires as we start reducing the need for desires. That's how it's built in. So when we don't have any fear and any desire, we'll be so capable of manifesting any desire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a very good safety net built in the nature.
Fortunately.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, it will go into wrong hands.
Yes.
So type of fears, you can imagine so many things. Fear of failures, mistakes, criticism, rejection by somebody else, or, all these kind of things. Fear of losing loved ones or losing anything that we feel as important. Fear of financial losses, assets. Fear of physical or mental illness, sickness. Phobias, about animals, ghosts, darkness, height. So many. In fact, if you read homeopathic materia medica, it's, I don't know, some hundreds and 200 list of fears and phobias, because homeopathy really looks at mind symptoms to diagnose. And these symptoms are very good. They give extremely good clue, to the aberrations that we have in our systems. Fear of death, of course, that is the most fundamental fear actually, which is the root cause for all other fears. We may not realize that, but that is the root cause. We may say that it's a distant event, so I'm not afraid of that, but everything is actually coming from that. So we'll see how it originates that. So if you look at, fears are essentially about not getting, fear of not getting or fear of losing what we perceive as important. It could be health, wealth, relationships, power, position, reputation, identity, many of these things. And very important point to note here is what we perceive as important. If you don't perceive something as important, it doesn't create fear in us. You just look that. For example, if you notice some small children, they may make a big fuss about a broken toy or something like that. You will say, oh my God, even such a small broken toy, you are making such a big fuss. For us, it's not important, but for that child, it was so important. That's why it's making such a big fuss. So then we need to ask ourselves, what is really important for us? As we grow up, it keeps changing. So what level have we reached in positioning ourselves as what is important? Important to reflect that. And if you notice this, those who don't have suffer with the fear of not getting. Those who have suffer with the fear of losing. So that's why both haves and have-nots suffer.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, last
Yeah.
point is desire, right? I mean, those who don't have suffer with desire of not having, and
so
those
that's
who
why I
have,
said desire and fear are very, very
Hmm.
two sides of the same coin.
Hmm.
You can say, I want something is a desire. What if I don't get it becomes the fear?
Hmm.
Or I have something, I want it, I want to hold on to that. What if I lose it becomes the fear.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, good.
Yeah.
Vishu, could we say that, fear is actually an enabling constraint also? In the sense that, it enables.
I'll come to that. See,
okay.
It appears like that, right now we are so conditioned to drive ourselves to action, either by fear or by desire. You just look at it. If there is no desire or no fear, probably we don't do any action, right?
Yes.
But in nature, the most profound action is what's called living as expression of joy. That means it's not driven by any fear or desire. If you look at trees, for example, they bloom, they give so much flower. I think, Raj, you have noise on the background. Yeah. So, can you hear me? I think my internet flicked for a while.
Yeah, we are able to. We are.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay. So, if you look at nature, the trees, one example, they bloom flowers, they give so much fruits. They're not going by saying, oh, if I don't give, the farmer will cut me, or if I go give more fruit, farmer will put more fertilizer. No, it's neither fear nor desire, right? It's just an expression of joy in a sense. Even animals are more like that. Only human beings become, because we have a very potent mind. It should be a boon, but we turn it into a bane. So now let's understand mechanics of fear. How does it work? How does it happen? For that, we should relate to the Panchakoshas. We saw in some of the previous sessions that we are not actually this body-mind entity. This whole body-mind entity with these 5 layers is essentially like our vehicle. That's what the Upanishads show us with more than 35 very scientific proofs, right? And when we say death, for example, we change this gross body. It's like changing a car, it's just like that. So it demonstrates that we have physical body, energy body, mental body, etheric body, bliss body, and then we are really the who we are. And we interact with this world through this vehicle. And this fear basically happens because we process the past data, memory, and project it into the future. And this data comes from all the 5 levels from Panchakoshas. For example, whatever actions or thinking that we do creates impressions in all the 5 layers. You can call it karma. And these can propagate through genetic inheritance, through genes. That is one path. For example, that's why even many generations past, people go through trauma, can actually create fear in this generation, somebody born in this generation. So we'll be totally surprised. Why am I having this fear? We can't even relate. It happened in many generations past, actually. And karmic propagation, karma, whatever we say, which the subtle body carries. And as it moves to another body, it can carry that. So we may be born in a new context, but still this is there and we can't relate. That's why we say a lot of these are like unknown fears. And these come from what is called vasanas or tendencies. That's why different people have different kinds of these vasanas. That's why these phobias come. Somebody is very afraid of just water. There's no reason, I don't know, but why? Maybe in some past event, something, water caused some harm. I drowned, or I saw somebody drowning, many, it could lead anything like that. In fact, I want to share one personal example. I don't know, people may feel it crazy, or is it possible, or is it a hallucination or anything, but I experienced it. See, many years back, I actually wanted to explore and went through past life regression with a art of living teacher. So it's a one-on-one process. It requires a lot of trust, because it's like I need to totally surrender and submit myself, this kind of thing. It's not a hypnosis. It's another kind of process. And it may take any amount of time, okay? It depends on how much we allow us to go deep. In fact, when I came out of that, I thought it was half an hour. It was 3 hours. Actually, I was lying there 3 hours. And in one of the instances, I saw, I don't know in what, how many millions of years back or whatever, I don't know. I was a mosquito and I was crushed to death by between 2 rocks. And something very profoundly opened. I was actually so much in tears, but it was a tears of, I don't know what to say, it's peace. It was not traumatic. Then it was so amazing. I used to get sometimes kind of a nightmare, which is like I'm stuck in some debris, or stuck in between 2 slabs, or stuck in a narrow cave or something like that, and used to feel like I'm going to die with suffocation or something like that, and wake up. It was something like this, and that actually vanished. So we don't know, there is so much depth in our system, but ancient science has so much knowledge on that. So just wanted to share this, because we may carry many of these things from so many places, but good news that we can deal with all of them. Now look at few dimensions of this fear. There is a psychology of fear. This is, fear is not real. I think if you just realize this, if you just recognize this, you can deal with almost 70 to 80% of fears, because they are all mostly coming from this, our current context. You reflect on this, okay? Fear is a false projection of the future, and there is no fear in the present moment. So now you can do this exercise. You recall some past situation where you felt extremely fearful. Okay, oh my God, this is end of it. This is going to be the worst thing, whatever. And now you look back at it and see how you feel about that situation. Probably you will say now, oh, of course, it was not such a big issue. But when it's in front of you, you thought, oh my God, this is it. Because it's a false projection of the future by the mind. And we'll see in the next slide how this happens by the interplay of this mind and the body. How they each other feed into this and magnify this false projection. So the solution to this, deal with awareness. You just become aware. Whenever this fearful thought comes, you just say, why am I feeling this? If you ask some question and say, you can go deeper into and say, this is not such a big issue. You will get clarity actually like that. Or you can even do journaling. If it's something very deep rooted, you can do journaling. Journaling means you keep writing without stopping, without filtering your thoughts, without analyzing, judging, so that it's as if you omit everything, even from your subconscious mind. And then later you can look at it and analyze. And journaling is a powerful technique to go into deeper subconscious minds and all. So you can use that kind of techniques. In fact, recently, one of my, because we do a lot of leadership coaching from one of the large financial organizations, this person, he was my coaches for, for maybe 3-4 years back. So he called me and asked about some of his fear, which was like, he had a fear that every time they, as a family, went on a travel, something would happen. Okay, I don't want to share the details. So with that fear, actually, he would spoil the whole journey, even before it starts happening. And he was not able to come out that. And we had just a half-an-hour session, and through asking some question and going into like this and making him realize that it's just a false projection, he said it's just eliminated. He said, oh my God, I feel so light. and recently after that, he actually went on a trip, family trip. It didn't happen like that actually. So it's as simple as that actually. Because it will be just nagging somewhere. If you just clear one bit is enough just to release it. Many times we'll be hanging on to this. Actually, we who hang on to it. So if you can release it, it will just vanish. So most of the fear, if you are able to deal with awareness, you can release. This is one aspect.
Vishu, when you mentioned journaling, right, with an example what you gave.
Yeah.
So it's typically like writing down your current, what is that causing fear, and just jot down those things. And then revisit that, whether it's really real or unreal, is it?
It is something like that. You can put a comment, why I feel this fear is, or if it's very unknown fear, what am I feeling fear about? You know, you just start keeping writing like that. And if you start coming to know what that fear is, then you can start with, why am I feeling about this fear? Why am I feeling this fear? So you can use few questions to trigger this journaling like that.
Just like 5-why analysis.
Yes, you can use that. You can use even 5W1H.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Vishu.
5W1H is, you know, what, where, when, who, all those W, and 1H is how, and then 5 times why. You know, these are typically analysis techniques. You can go very deep.
Or just writing down whatever is coming to our mind.
Yes. Most important thing is not to analyze, filter, judge those thoughts. Otherwise, our mind says, I don't like this, so I want to hide that actually. I don't allow the deeper things to come out because it looks painful or it looks silly for myself, you know. My ego hurts. So we want to protect that and we want to hide from that.
So just script whatever coming to your mind, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Vishu, Jagdish here.
Yeah.
I mean, this concept like fear or risk or whatever, you know, like you have this risk and you say you will do risk mitigation. You know, risk materialization, risk materializes or not, you don't know, but you create the mitigation action. So is that similar? So if you have fear, you go into mitigation actions, assuming that fear gets realized. So is that a bad thing?
I think that's a good point. Very good point. See, there is a fear as an emotional or dealing within myself part, and fear as dealing with some uncertainty of the future. See, all this risk analysis and risk mitigation is about dealing with this uncertainty about the future. That's an important analyzing, planning for, being prepared, think of alternatives, all those things. That's a very useful thing. But while doing that, am I getting consumed myself? Am I harming myself in terms of my physical, mental, energy aspects? That is what is more important to deal with in a self perspective.
That's perfectly put. I mean, that is awareness, I guess, right?
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Yeah. So now the physiology of fear, how the body deals with and creates also. But mind is the root, okay? So it starts with mind. Mind perceives threat. Mind says, oh my God, this is a big problem. It can be anything, okay? It can be a threat to your ego. Somebody criticizes you, then you feel a threat to your identity. That also can trigger many things. It need not have to be a life-threatening only. So many things could trigger this, what we perceive as threat. We'll come to that. What is this identity issue? That is the root cause of all the things, the mistaken identity. So mind triggers this threat, perceives threat, and then it triggers this whole brain, nervous system, endocrine system, everything in our mechanism to ready this system to either to fight or flight. Whether I should run away from this or should I fight, right? Because fear is designed for survival, basically. So what's called amygdala in the brain, the sympathetic nervous system, these are all actually trigger the whole system to either ready to fight or run away. Then it triggers adrenaline, which is one of the hormones which increases the heart rate, so that heart can supply more blood to the all parts of the body, and along with blood it can supply the food and oxygen to generate more energy. Either to run away or fight, you need energy now, right? That's how it happens. When heart rate increases and blood starts flowing more, blood pressure increases because it's the same pipe. Now more blood is going through that traffic jam, And as you notice, while this happens, the breathing becomes fast and shallow. It won't be deep. In fact, for every emotion, we have different breathing pattern. Just like for every emotion, we have different facial expression. For every emotion, we have different breathing pattern. If you become aware and observe, you can notice that. In fact, even the temperature of the breath changes. That's why when you become angry, it becomes hot. They say, he came breathing fire, those kind of terminologies are used, right? Then metabolism increases in the body to generate more energy. And stomach readies for processing more food because it assumes that now more food will come to generate this, and it starts producing more acids. And while so much reaction is happening in the body, the excretory system needs to clear a lot of toxins that get produced or the waste that get produced. So they have to work overtime. Then because of all these reactions, toxins, the endocrine glands become imbalanced, which are our actual chemical factories, the hormones and enzymes, everything. And when they go imbalanced, our moods, emotions, thinking, everything goes imbalanced. We know that hormones have big impact on mind, right? So the fear, anxiety, anger, depression, whatever, that actually gets now amplified. So it becomes a negative spiral like this. So it starts with mind saying that, oh, that's a problem. Then it says, oh, this is a big problem. Then it amplifies even, oh my God, this is a very big problem. Oh my God, this is, hell is falling. It amplifies just like this because of this negative spiral. That's why I said it's a false projection, right? That's why if you look back some past events, you'll say, of course, it was not just such a big issue. So this is how it amplifies, and how now mind has actually impacted the body. You can see it affects the heart, it affects the BP, it affects acidity, it affects kidney problems, it affects thyroid and many hormones and the endocrine glands, and creates all these kind of depressions or irritations or angers and anxieties. Mind triggering all these things, in turn body triggering the mind. This is the negative spiral. So how to cut this cycle? The very powerful but very simple way is to break this breathing pattern. In fact, if you notice in our system, breath is the only voluntary and involuntary system. All other systems are either voluntary or involuntary. For example, hand, leg, I can say raise it, leave it. It's a voluntary system. Whereas digestion is happening, heart is beating, they're all involuntary system. Breath is the voluntary as well as involuntary system. It keeps happening. At the same time, I can change it also. I can hold it, I can change pattern. This is the clue. And this is the key to go inside our system actually. That's why the whole yogic sciences have mastered this using breath to both manage the mind and the body. So one very good technique to deal with this fear is, of course, now there's a lot of neuroscience research which shows about what happens through these breathing techniques and even meditations, how brain cells change, how all these neurotransmitters, which are called like hormones, they change, how we can produce more pleasantness hormones, and how we can reduce the depressing hormones, or all those kind of things. Now, there is one technique of breathing which I'll show now. Very simple, and you can try it anytime you get into this fear mode, or in fact any negative emotions mode. Okay, and how it works is like this first, so that we understand the mechanics of that internally. Again, through neuroscience, we know all these things. Now we know that inhale is connected to what's called sympathetic nervous system, and exhale is connected to what's called parasympathetic nervous system. And the function of this is sympathetic nervous system creates what's called fight or flight instinct. That means it triggers all these organs. It activates all these organs. Whereas parasympathetic nervous system, which is called rest and digest function, it calms down all these organs. It relaxes all of them. So it's like a two lever, based on just like a vehicle. I want to accelerate or I want to slow down. That's as simple as that. You can just, now you can imagine you can drive this vehicle using this, right? Like a steering wheel, or you have the levers now. So if you increase the inhale duration than the exhale duration, it creates excitement of all these systems. On the other hand, if the exhale is longer than inhale, it calms down and cools down. So if you just change your breathing pattern, whenever you detect this, I'm having this fear, or I'm getting angry, anything, you change this breathing pattern. So you say normal inhale, but slow exhale. That should be the pattern. You say, as simple as that. You just do in 2 minutes, you can notice that. In fact, if you check your BP, if you check your pulse rate, they will come down. You can just measure as simple as that. You can experiment it. And there is one more subtle technique in this, which actually helps to do it more effectively. See, while exhaling, you can exhale by using a valve in the throat. We use this valve during Ujjayi breath in one of the last sessions, if you remember. So it's like how you can feel this valve is, if you say, with mouth open, you can feel a pressure in the throat. And then if you do the same thing with mouth closed, but exhaling through nose, you can still exert a pressure there. So use that valve to exhale slowly. That has a much higher impact. So it's as simple as that. You breathe in normally, exhale through this valve slowly. You can maybe observe something like this. Like that. You don't have to have any specific count, but make sure that your inhale and exhale is longer than inhale. That's all. If you look at the other way now, whenever, for example, sigh, sighing, you observe how the sighing happens. Slow inhale and sudden exhale happens. That is sighing. It actually increases this fight or flight. So if you observe breathing pattern and change this breathing pattern to longer exhale cycle, you can control all the emotions within 1 or 2 minutes actually. And we know how it works now. So this is dealing with the physiology of fear. Okay. Now one more part.
One question.
Sure.
Vishal. I mean, just, maybe an out of context, like, if you hold it for long also, will that has any impact or anything which helps? I mean,
there are patterns, what is called Kumbhaka, Rechaka. That means you hold after inhale, hold after exhale, etc. You should learn those pranayamas properly through some teacher. Because breath is so powerful. Anything powerful can have negative impact also, no? Just like nuclear energy is so powerful, it can burn down a city or light up a city based on how it's used. Very similar to that.
okay.
So don't try to hold. It can be a pause, It can be just pauses after inhale, after exhale. So let it be as natural as possible. Only thing is exhale is slower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, I have a question. Sumit.
Yeah.
When you have this fear, it goes into mind in cycles and cycles. One is you said about how you break the cycle.
See, mind goes into that cycles also because of the body, because this mind and body interplay, which makes it continue to happen. See, whatever event happened, even the thought came, is just an instance, right?
Yeah.
After that, it's actually this body-mind interplay which keeps on carrying it forward.
Yes.
If you break it there and then remove it doesn't continue. Again, the thought might come, but you can break it again.
Yeah.
So that way you can weaken it. Otherwise, we strengthen it by our own thoughts because we feed energy into that. Yeah. Okay, now we look at one more element, which is anatomy of fear. So it's of psychology, then physiology, and now the anatomy. Have you observed where is fear felt? Where do you feel the fear?
In the guts.
Exactly. Right? In fact, every emotion is felt in different chakras. Fear is felt in the gut, butterfly feeling, something happening in the stomach. So this is dealing with Manipura chakra or solar plexus. Around each chakras, there are a lot of nerve tissues actually. So along this Manipura chakra, which is around the navel region, there are solar plexus, again, a lot of nerve tissues. And we can do something to deal with that at that level, okay? And another important part to notice here is that the umbilical cord. This was our original supply chain when you are connected to mother. And it got cut. In fact, that is the starting of one of the big fears of that separation, because it was one entity, now I got separated. The child crying. And if you notice, the mother and child bonding is much stronger, that's why, than even father and child bonding. So the fear has origin right from there actually, right from birth. And if you strengthen the Manipura chakra, fear reduces. So there is a practice for that. There are two things. One is you can do deep abdominal breathing. Have you seen babies when they're sleeping, how their abdomen goes up and down, right? They do deep abdominal breathing. As we grow up, our breathing becomes shallow. We hardly do abdominal breathing. We do very chest breathing. So You can do abdominal breathing. Again, in Ujjayi breath, we did that. Even in normal, you can do just, let the tummy expand as you breathe in. That means the diaphragm really goes down. Can you try that? You can do abdominal breathing. Let the tummy expand as you breathe in, and let the chest also expand. That will be a deep abdominal breathing. So that actually strengthens the Manipura chakra. Another one is, there is a technique, in fact, Shriyam teaches this. This is, maybe I can show it. In the navel region, you rub the navel region, around the navel, okay? You can do it without the cloth also. You rub it for some time and then hold your hands like this, okay? And then keep your hand like this on navel region. Little bit pressed, not too much, so that your hands don't become like a, too much strain. And then hold it like this and say Om, 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 that sound. Couple of, you take a deep breath and continue to say that until, you run out of your breath. And we have seen in the past this Om sound significant, right? From the tip of the spinal column to the top of the spinal column in the head, how it vibrates the entire column. Just these 3 words, and it actually vibrates all the chakras, and that's why it helps to energize that part. So these 2 can actually help to improve this Manipura chakra, which actually reduces many fears. Now, if you look at these Panchakoshas, we have addressed physical layer, mental layer, energy layer, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manonmaya Kosha. So using these techniques, you can deal with fear much more effectively, rather than only by thinking, trying to deal with that. Because by thinking and trying to deal with that, you feed more energy into that. In fact, fear will aggravate. That's why the more we think about the fear, it grows stronger, because we feed energy into that. Instead, we should use these techniques to, reduce the impact, reduce the intensity. Any questions on these 3? Now I'm shifting gear to another profound, biggest way you can deal with fear.
I have a question, Vishu. Is this to be done when we feel fear, or is it like a regular practice?
Very good question. This is a regular practice, because we need to strengthen this Manipura and the navel region, because that's the source in the anatomy.
And in the fact, slow exhale is during
whenever you feel that. Yes. Correct. And in fact, now there is a lot of neuroscience research which shows there is a connection between the gut and the center part of the brain called basal ganglia, which is the source of the primitive brain, which is designed for survival. In fact, people who have strong gut, strong digestive system, they have less fear, if you notice. That's why you say, do you have the guts, Yeah, somebody is saying something.
Gut, they say gut is the second brain.
Yes. In fact, there is a TED video you can watch. There is a second brain in the stomach.
Yeah. We should just to add on to this, like those who are familiar with Lecker antenna, right?
Yes.
We find Manipuraka chakra is slightly blocked.
Yes.
Those are the people who will have a little bit of higher fear. And one more way what I have found which has worked, using yellow color. just look at yellow color for some time, the fear will naturally subside a lot. It's more of a color of Manipuraka Chakra's enablement.
Okay, wonderful. Yes, in fact, each of the chakras have associated colors, sounds, and images, which can strengthen. In fact, there is a book called Eastern Body, Western Mind, which is written in a very modern person called Judith. She's a psychologist as well as a yoga teacher from US. She has combined these two aspects of Western positive psychology and the Eastern yogic sciences and chakra nadi systems, and correlated how different chakras have different kinds of mind and emotions and feelings and thoughts related influences. Quite interesting.
So let the digestion be so strong that you can digest fear also.
Yeah.
Having fear for lunch.
Having fear for lunch.
Yeah. See, we are all laughing now. When that fear comes. Okay.
But when fear comes, we'll forget all these things.
Exactly. Okay, now the
issue, doing like this breathing exercise or the one that you mentioned earlier, like double exhale, double of inhale. You're saying that the occurrence of fear in the first place reduces.
What is that?
I mean, the actual fear, the trigger of getting fearful, that actually starts reducing.
Yes. In fact, if you are noticing fear, it starts very small and then starts growing. So if you are able to detect it when it's small itself and actually change that breathing pattern to longer exhale, you can nip it at the bud, so to say.
Okay, but those fears will keep coming back, right? Like whether it's fear of losing, fear of getting, not getting, those will keep coming. They're not going to disappear, right? They will keep coming back.
Yeah, because for that we need to do many of these practices because you need to change the body, all the pancha koshas, there is so much of that data and memory,
Right.
They keep feeding it to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Vishu, this thing people that we talk about, actually, it's the body. I mean, that dies, or it comes to an end.
Yeah.
And actually, the self is something which in our tradition we say it continues forever. So it is very interesting that it's something that continues to exist forever is afraid of something
No. It's much deeper than that. What we say as in traditional sense, say soul or what's called subtle body is still not we. It is still separate than who we truly are. Okay, so hold on, I'm coming to that. That's my next slide. So the root cause of fear is mistaken identity. In fact, Upanishads clearly point out with more than about 35 very scientific proofs that we are infinite existence consciousness bliss, what's called Sat Chit Ananda, Satchidananda, they say. And we are not this body-mind entity as we think or perceive. But we think that we are this separate, individual, finite, limited body-mind entity because of ignorance called ajnana. So fear is essentially about losing this identity. This identity includes, it starts with, I am this body-mind, which is a mistaken identity. I am not this body-mind. Body-mind belongs to me as a vehicle. For example, my car, I'm not the car. It belongs to me. Something like that. It's my body-mind is my vehicle or a gadget. It belongs to me. I'm not it, actually. I'm separate from that. This is what Upanishads actually point us. And moment that starts, no, it starts building more extended identities. Moment I say this is my body, mind is me, I start associating many things with that. My family, my assets, my religion, my country, all these are extended identities. But the root is I'm saying I am this body and mind. So all fear is about losing this identity. Right from if I say, oh, my country is losing in a game, I feel hurt or I feel anxiety. It's one element of this losing identity. My religion, which is a big fight all over the world, it is another identity issue. And desire is about strengthening this identity. This whole Jagat, what you call as the Jagat, which is continuously in motion, is running because of this fear and desire as the cycles. If you stop this, Jagat doesn't exist. In the sense, not the outside, as we perceive it. This is a difficult segment, so I won't go deep into this. This actually leads to the Advaita aspects. But this is the root cause. So there are a lot of, you can see even from modern science. Modern science now clearly shows that everything is an energy, right? Matter is a manifestation of the energy. But we don't feel like that because our sensors, feed in a different way. The light and sound and touch and, taste and everything. And we know that at an atomic level, 99% is hollow, right? But we feel these objects are so solid. Again, because our sensors feed us like that. So all these are actually deceptions. They are all mithya. We know this time and space through relativity. They are not. There is no truth in that. In fact, there is no time and space. It is created because of the sensors and the mind-body gadget. So Upanishads actually have a lot of things which actually help us to go through self-inquiry route and actually realize this. And they give many examples. For example, rope as snake, mistaking rope as snake. You see a rope somewhere, maybe not so lighted area, and you feel a snake. From then, what all happens, you can imagine, right? So much rush of energy, you are scared and you may run, or you may try to kill it, or you may even build strategies to say next time how the snake should not come, many things like that. But the moment you realize that, oh, it's a rope, all things just vanish, isn't it? This is exactly that. Because of this mistaken identity that I am this body mind, all other things are running. If we just realize that I am not this body and mind, I'm not this finite limited entity, I am the infinite existence, then everything actually vanishes. It's just one switch. Of course, Upanishads give many examples to realize this. They give examples like ocean and wave, or ocean and water droplets. This individual droplet feeling that, oh, I'm separate, this small droplet. But in essence, it's the same water, which is the same ocean. And there are many things like you can witness your wake state, dream state, deep sleep state, and see who is actually observing this. And then you can see that so-called I is beyond all these things, because I am there in all these states. I can observe all these things. And there are other many things, like this, like Drigdrishya Viveka. That means seer and seen are different. Me and the object outside are different. I can very easily say that, right? Because I see this differently. My eyes are seeing that. And if you go a little deeper, are eyes really seeing this? Because I may be looking at something, but I still may not recognize it, because if my mind is somewhere else, that means mind is seeing, not the eye. eye is like a lens, it just passes the, light. And is the mind really seeing? You can go deep inside and say, I am aware whether mind is seeing it or not, thought is coming or not. That means something else is able to observe the mind. That means I am different than the mind. So this Drigdishya Vivek actually takes you deeper like this and says, realize that you are actually that witness which actually can observe everything.
But
and
if I could just ask, typically things like infinite existence, it's not in your experience, or at least maybe you've not experienced it.
Yeah.
So then when you not experience something, everything else that we tell ourselves could become a psychological, trying to explain ourselves psychologically as to what's there.
Absolutely. I know you are talking about Sadhguru. See, one is experience, okay? You can experience through, if you, for example, do some Kriya Yoga, you can experience something which you normally don't experience. That means you will start seeing that there is something more than what these five sensors are, feeding us. That itself is a first proof to say that there is something more than what I perceive through these five sensors. And that should set you in that path to begin with. Then if you go deeper, what all you can experience is still through body, mind, entity only. That means the real truth is beyond the mind. So if you are trying to seek that truth through experience, you won't get it. That's where Advaita, the jnana comes. Jnana is not through an experience. For example, if you say sunrise and sunset, right? And by becoming aware, then we say, oh, it's not sun is rising or setting, it's the earth is rotating. We are now knowing that. But we may say that, no, but I don't feel that earth is rotating. No, I'm sitting on this and nothing is happening. So if you are trying to go by experience, you can go only some distance. This jnana is much beyond that. So we need to transcend this mind. In fact, mind is the limitation. Mind is the barrier. Mind is the one which is making us feel that I'm this small little entity and I'm not this infinite existence. Mind is the one which is saying, I am this water droplet. I am not this water, the whole water ocean.
Thank you. Vishu, I need to step out, so I'll...
yeah, sure.
Thank you, Vishu.
Yep. Sorry, I'm already exiting.
So Vishu, the problem is that we mind the mind.
Exactly. So this is ultimate liberation actually from bondage of fear and desire, because everything is originating because of this mistaken identity. And this is not an easy thing, but we should at least begin to understand or pay attention towards this. And there are a lot of information or help available for people to explore this and see it. And even with little bit, you can start experiencing that. That's my experience. So let me just close with one more slide. So a few other tips to prevent and deal with fear. Reduce external stimuli, simplify life, especially the financial and relationship, because these are the maximum which cause us, trigger us. And feed less negative data to the system, especially the mainstream news these days. And strengthen the internal system, physical, mental health, lifestyle, food, sleep, exercise have a big role to play. You can feel that, right? When you're feeling weak, actually fear can be much stronger. And homeopathy works great, both from energy body level. That's why homeopathy has so much about fear symptoms documented. So life as an expression of joy is a better way of living than driven by fear and desire, stick and carrot, which the modern education world has exploited actually. And this is a great liberation. Even if you feel few things, you can see that lightness and burden getting removed and feeling really joyful actually. So this is what I wanted to share, and I'll stop sharing and stop recording as well.